This is Capital Games, I am the Wiz. Before I get into today's topic, let's go over some notes. Wednesday, I'll be doing my sales projections of Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Review embargo is going to be Wednesday morning, so Wednesday in the afternoon, I'll go ahead and do my projections on the sales on that. Now, if you checked out the week recap from yesterday, I did a small projection of what I thought Dead Island 2 was, and, you know, in the interest of transparency, I think it would be best for me to just cut right to the chase on this one. I said that Dead Island 2 will probably only reach about 600K when it came to sales for the year. Well, it blew past that at 1 million in the first 3 days, according to Deep Silver. Yeah, I got that wrong. Can we just chalk it up to some podcasting rust? I have been out for 4 or 5 days, so, you know, I'm not used to the thing, you know, when you talk and, you know, between me and you. Okay, fine. Not that I haven't been wrong on other things, too, but yeah, I definitely got that wrong, it looks like. I'll take that on the chin for now, so yeah, that was, that was pretty bad. Alright, so on to today's topic. A growing trend that I have noticed in the past couple of weeks, and this has been going on for a while now, but it's been more in the news as of recently, is that developers of games that have either been disappointing in sales or have outright failed in the marketplace are now asking for their games to be revived. The most recent example is Cliff Blezinski, who is asking his publisher Nexon to open talks about potentially reviving his first-person shooter Lawbreakers that came out 5 years ago and only lasted a year until it was shut down. American McGee, a couple of weeks back, also wanted to negotiate with EA in reviving his Alice franchise, and that, of course, went by the wayside, unfortunately. But I guess the question I have here is, why are these developers, or these people who were attached to these IPs that have basically not gone on to much success, all of a sudden want to have a second crack at the apple? Why they want to revive these IPs when they didn't work in the first place? So let's just talk about that for a little bit. The industry right now really cares about certain metrics, and that really is sales. The industry does not like to use new IPs. They like to actually use IPs that people are familiar with, either bad or good in the situation. With the amount of money it costs to make a game, a lot of these businessmen and these companies that have the money want to put their money in something that is guaranteed to have some sort of traffic. By making a new IP, you're not guaranteed that unless you do something very different or that's very visually appealing. That costs a lot of money. Publishers like to just go ahead and just reiterate on these same IPs over and over again, which is why these developers and these people who have experience in these IPs want to revive those IPs to then go ahead and make a new version of their game. The problem is, unfortunately, that the way the game industry is right now, it is the money men and the business people who really have the power in the industry. In the film industry, yes, the studio do have the most power, but the creative talent, when they make a lot of money, they also have some sway as to what you do. An example of this is Ari Aster. Ari Aster is the person who directed Hereditary, Midsommar. Both were big hits that didn't cost much for his parent company, and after that, he was able to make a movie that he really wanted that was pretty expensive, but is not going to make much money, even though that he was attached to it. The company allowed him to do that because he was such a marketable name that people liked, and his movies were not only that successful, but he's also very well respected, that there is the need to want to keep that talent and make them happy, so you give him that money to make that movie that he wants, whether it will bomb or not. That's not how it works in the gaming industry. And there's a few reasons as to why that is. One is the expense to make these games. A lot of games reach the 100 million, 150 million, 200 million budget, and the people who put the money down want a guarantee as to what exactly they're going to get back. And the best way to do that is to attach it to an IP that is either well-known, has a fan base, or is popular, or has made money in the past. So that's why they are deciding to go that route. The other thing, honestly, is that with the medium of video gaming to be very collaborative, unless you have a very outgoing and gregarious type of personality who's out there and talking to the media, specifically the mainstream media, you're not going to get that much sway when it comes to the creative minds of the gaming industry. Basically, the most talented people in the gaming industry, with the exception of maybe Hideo Kojima, they are utterly reliant on the people who are making money. And if they are not happy and they don't like what they're hearing, they're probably not going to do that job. There really is no such thing as, you made 3 hits for me that made oodles and oodles of money, we'll throw $100 million down the toilet so you can do your passion project. There really isn't one there. If a developer wants to make that passion project, they would have to leave that company, and that's the safety net that they have. Well, as much as a safety net there is when it comes to these companies, but they have to leave that safety nest and go form their own company to do it themselves and take the risk themselves. And the reason why is that the businessmen and the higher-ups are under the conditioning of they're all replaceable. Everybody wants to work in the video game industry. They want to make video games, so they can easily find somebody to step up and take over if that person leaves. Now, is that true all the time? No. There are exceptions to that. Well, let's look at God of War for an example. God of War was started by David Jaffe. After David Jaffe left, it went to Cory Barlog, and it went on and on. I think Cory Barlog has been doing it still since. There is the next step up that they have, even though somebody who is as well known as a Jaffe or as a Warren Spector or whomever, yeah, even though there are these people that get that kind of popularity, it only goes so much, and it doesn't give them any kind of leverage to flex their creative bones. Like I said, they would have to leave the company in order to then go do their passion project, which is really not a great thing when it comes to creativity in the gaming industry. But then why do these companies then take their IPs that they create and sell them to a publisher and give them the power to either have a sequel or not? Isn't that counterproductive? It is, but unfortunately, and this goes for not only the gaming industry, but also goes for TV, movies, and books, that if a company is wanting to front money to somebody to make somebody, they want collateral in return. And the only collateral that that person can give is that creative property. So when that happens, and the game fails, they'll have the power in the end to say, okay, we're shutting it down, we're no longer using it, and then you would have to come up with a great reason for us to bring this IP back. That's just the way that the industry is right now, where the creative people have zero power in this. Maybe not zero, most of them have zero power. They're under the whims of the people who have the money. But they have relatively low amount of power. Even if you are as well respected and have done 10 years of excellent games, that's really just, what, 2-3 games at that point? So that's not enough equity in most money men's eyes to then say, oh, they're irreplaceable, we need to keep them. Kojima didn't get to where he was. I mean, he was respected before Metal Gear Solid, but it wasn't until Metal Gear Solid where he got the auteur signification and people started really showing the love to him for his games. I guess the person who runs From Software, he might be able to then say to his company and to another publisher or even a console maker, I have this passion project and I want to make it. Will you fund it? And he might be able to get it. There is no guarantee, but he might be able to do that. Or he may get it if it is, as long as it is the same as what he's been making. That really constrains people who are creative and want to do different things. So that essentially becomes a problem with those types of things. The power dynamic when it comes to the creative people have to what the money people have is wildly askew. But then let's just double back as to why these creatives are then coming back to these companies and say, hey, revive these IPs. And the basic answer is, it's the only shot they have in order to actually get another crack at the apple and to make success. You already have an IP. There is a sizable amount of people who are familiar with it. It might not be that big, but there is enough. And maybe we can, in the case of the Alice games, maybe we can re-release the Alice games. And we can get people to be excited and see what happens. Well, that's not going to happen, of course, but there is that shot. Or with Lawbreakers, you have this game that, I mean, let's be fair. From what I've heard, it was okay, but not enough. But with so many multiplayer games out there, it was hard for Lawbreakers to actually get a foothold. But there's enough time that's passed that maybe some people would say, oh, actually, that was pretty good. And it can convince some people that maybe they want to go ahead and take another crack at the apple. But then look at it the publisher side. Okay, this is now a 5-year-old game that no one plays because it's dead. What do we do with it? Well, we're going to have to update it to the current gen specs, so that makes more development time. That means we're going to have to hire more people to do that. And then we can't just re-release the game as is because that failed. So what do? Well, we're going to have to put more development time and more money into something that will improve upon the core dynamic of Lawbreakers and accentuate the good things that were in it and get away from the bad things that were the problem with it. I don't know what those are. I didn't play Lawbreakers. I thought it was kind of silly to spend $30 on a game that I couldn't play as a demo, so I didn't even play it. It makes some sense. These game designers want to revive their old IPs, and in the next chance to actually turn around and get another foothold in the gaming market and have another shot at success and get some money from the thing that you're doing. The way that the publishers are right now and the money people are right now, if they can't get a sizable return on investment from mining those IPs, they're just not going to do it at this point. Asking EA to revive Alice, which bombed in 2013, I believe. No, it might have bombed, but it didn't do very well. But it didn't do very well in 2013. To then turn around and say, hey, why don't we bring that back and give me another shot at doing that? If I'm looking at it monetarily, I would say that's a risk in that case too. And then the other thing also with, and I'll put this with McGee's Alice too. Part of the thing with American McGee's Alice is that it's about somebody who has obvious mental health issues that you're playing as. And that could potentially be controversial in that case. So I can understand why EA might want to turn around and say, yeah, we're not touching that. Especially with how social media and how offended people get nowadays. Specifically that game, I could see why EA said, no, we're not doing anything with that. In regards to Lawbreakers, the thing that I really curious as to why Cliffy B was, I think the most thing I'm curious about is why he decided to call out on Twitter in the first place that he had news for Lawbreakers. That to me was like, why? Or was he ginning up a possible, like, was he going to use these social media hits when talking to Nexon and going, look at how many people love Lawbreakers, they want it back. Look at this. Look at all these social media posts. Oh, we trended. Oh my god. You have to bring it back. Which at that point, and this is just me, social media means dick to me after these past few years. There are things that get popular in social media that if you go out in the real world, no one has any idea what you're talking about and has no clue as to what exactly it is you're saying right now. Isn't the Hogwarts Legacy thing the biggest example of how people thought that was gonna bomb and that it went almost 300% above the expectations of WB Games? Like, isn't that the proof right there that social media really isn't the big catalyst and that important that people think it is at this point? So I don't know. I think that Cliffy B was trying to get his foothold back into the gaming industry at some point. Even though I hear he's doing other things right now, he doesn't necessarily need to be in the gaming industry. But I just don't see the reason as to why he did this at all. What do you think about these developers and these creative people trying to revive old, long dormant IPs all of a sudden in the past few months? Again, this is something that probably happens more behind the scenes, that a lot of companies or a lot of creative people try to bring back old IPs, try and get them away from their parent companies that they sold them off to in the past. This is not new. Again, this is not new. This is something that happens all the time, but I just found it interesting that this was happening more and more out in the open. And I think this was more of a ploy to get more social media coverage on there to then use it as a bargaining chip to actually greenlight the project, which, again, if I were a business person, I would look at that and say that's meaningless. Just put that away. No. That's completely meaningless. I don't even pay attention to it. But anyway, what do you guys think of this trend that's happening? Wednesday, the review embargo for Star Wars Jedi Survivor is going to be up in the morning. I will do my sales projections on that. Hopefully I do a lot better than I did for Dead Island 2. So we'll see on that one. Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday, I have a review on the Movie Club with Zero for Arrival. That was done last week, but after my issues last week, couldn't do it. So we're going to do that Tuesday. Thursday, me and Kim are going to review Field of Dreams. So if you are interested in that, go ahead and check that out. And then Friday is our weekly dividend. What do you think? If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions on what to cover, go ahead and let me know in the comments on social media on YouTube. Or if you want to email, you can email us at zerowizcast@gmail.com. But until then, I am the Wiz. This is Capital Games. Talk to you next time. Bye. Thank you for checking out Capital Games, where we cover the business side of the video game industry. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you enjoyed the video. You can also subscribe to the podcast if you prefer to have it on your podcast feed. And check us out on our socials and email us if you have a question, comment, or suggestion. Thank you for watching and listening. We'll hear from you next time.